Hello and welcome back to the Click Wars podcast. Jamie back from Chiang Mai looking like a Thai god. How you doing, man?
I'm all right. I was wondering if we were going to break the fourth wall with that one because I don't know if I was wearing the same clothes or not since when we actually recorded it, but I've since lost my AirPods in like the transition. So I'm now back with the wired headphones. And so like, if that's the bit that like breaks the fourth wall and ruins the like intimacy of this conversation as you transition into the podcast, then that's what it is. Right. And so, when you go traveling, it always like something for me, something always goes wrong. But it was good. I enjoyed Chiang Mai. We'll talk about it in more detail, I'm sure, in a future podcast. But shortly before we left, we had Mushfiq on. And this is a bit of a banger, in my opinion, because obviously Mushfiq needs no introduction. He's crushing it. He's doing a range of businesses and sort of building his mini empire with like the content side, the web operation side, the deal flow side. So the courses for anyone who doesn't want to pay for like the higher end gets the self-service route with the courses rather than a white glove service. So he's doing some really interesting stuff. We talked about the web operators in a lot of detail in his new niche site and content and e-commerce content management service. We went into detail on a variety of other things. His opinion on digital PR companies was a funny moment, and his reputation in the game, I guess. And so it was an interesting one. Mushfiq always has a lot to talk about and a lot to say. And so we knew this would be like, a lot for us to learn. I'm happy with how it turned out. I think it was good.
Yeah, I love this episode. It was a real eye-opening episode for me and just like super cool to see how a multi-business operator actually thinks, like getting into that kind of nitty-gritty. I don't think I've heard him speak about some of these things. And as we do on the Click Wars podcast, we like to get those questions answered that you all want to hear. But should we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, welcome to the newest episode of the Click Wars podcast. This week we've got one of the most well-known people in the space who's been around for a long time, I believe since late 2000s, before even 2010s kicked in, serious veteran in the game, who's made moves and sort of becoming more of a full stack SEO, if that makes sense, from cradle to grave with the site game. Thank you for coming on, Mushfiq. If you had 20 seconds gun to head to explain what you did, you got 20 seconds to tell your story. No pressure.
Thank you, Jamie, Sammy. Thank you for having me. I started in 2008. Grew my first site, sold my first site in 2010. And from then on, I've only been mostly 90+% buying sites and growing them. So just maybe a couple of years ago, got into the newsletters and buying more bigger projects rather than smaller content sites. So yeah, mostly in the acquisitions and flipping game.
Nice. And how big's your team now?
Two full-time, and then the rest contractors, but probably a mix of 15 to 20 people as needed.
Okay. That's a serious team. So how do you manage all of it? Because you've got the newsletters, and we'll get deeper into each individual thing, but just as like a team pod style thing, right? How do you go? Newsletters get written like clockwork every day, every week, some of them. The operations get done for all the clients. The acquisitions get done so they're profitable, the due diligence, the courses. How do you block it down with only one person with 24 hours in a day and make sure that the standards are maintained?
Yeah, it reminds me of that one image of the iceberg, right? The tip is above the ocean, looks great, and then there's all this stuff underneath. No, it's not really that organized. So we have a team of me included, two others on the newsletter. They do the heavy lifting because I've been doing a consistent newsletter for those who don't know, I write the website flip newsletter, which we do deal flow analysis. So websites for sale, we analyze them, send them over to the newsletter on a Wednesday, and then Fridays and Mondays we usually do like a niche site teardown. We find a site and do a full teardown, and we're just experimenting on Mondays and Fridays on what's working and what's the most. Because back in the day, it was about growing a following, right? And now it's I need to profit on every email in a way. And we could talk about that, because it doesn't make sense to just keep growing a following if you're not going to get the profit. Early on, it makes sense to do that, but not later on. So we're experimenting on Mondays and Fridays. What works? We know that deal flow provides ROI, so we always do that. Anyways, it's been consistent, so people can look at my huge database of newsletters for the last 3 years. We've not missed an email. So I have for 52 weeks in a year, I have 52 emails per year, right? So people can look at that. And I have been working with these two guys. They buy sites themselves. One of them was an analyst at Investors Club, so they know how to analyze deals, right? So they're on my team pretty much full time, helping me analyze. Obviously, I am the last check if that's a good deal or not, but they structure and everything I review. Takes me less than an hour a week to manage the newsletter now. So very, very streamlined.
You talk about the profit per making a newsletter, and while you can scale up and not worry about the profits just to gain the audience, now it's like, how are we doing this and making money? How do you determine the LTV of a newsletter subscriber for something where you do what you do versus, and then how do you use that to anchor how you can buy subs or whatever else?
So I don't buy subs. I am against that. I've tried it. I just don't think it works. So yeah, I don't know paid ads. Everything is organic, social media, podcasts, all of that. So LTV, I don't calculate that. So this is the thing. I don't run a very data-driven newsletter, right? So I don't know the LTV of my customer, I'll be honest, because I don't have one product, right, where I can say, okay, this is my SaaS. Easy, right? I can calculate the LTV. I get a newsletter, put everybody in this. I have digital courses. I have products that are databases. I have consulting. I have brokerage fees. It's just so many things that it's just really impossible to know what one person will like and hard to really calculate that. So what I look at is, I'm going to publish a newsletter next Friday. All right, I need to make X dollars for this to make sense. Either that's through a sponsorship or that's through selling my own products and making, on the back end. And that it's not going to be just like one newsletter is going to be in and of itself profitable. It's like, okay, I'm doing a series on niche site teardowns, and over a course of a month, am I making money? And if not, I scratch that and move to a different idea. Right.
Gotcha. So obviously your fingers in many pies. Your day must be split across multiple different brands and variables.
For sure.
How do you know when, because, you've obviously, are you building, say, one of these up and then creating systems in place for you to then delegate that out and then allowing yourself to step back from that? Or, how does that actually look and work for you? So interested to know how you're managing to take on so many projects.
Yeah, surprisingly, that is how it's been. Back in the day, I would do 3 or 4 things at the same time. And now, for example, up until I think July, I was focused on my M&A agency, so merger and acquisition agency. We do due diligence, so that's webacquisition.com. Kind of streamlined that, grew the organic as much as possible, got the word out, sponsored a lot of newsletters so people know okay, we are a player in this space. And now I have one person, I have 2 contractors that help me on those. And I also do the due diligence on some deals. And so leads come in, right? It's one of those things where it's not recurring. So it's okay, one month you might get a lot, and then another month you get minimal. So it's an agency kind of a structure. So that grew that to July. And then, I get I don't know, Spider-Man, I got those tingly feelings or whatever, right? Okay, this is going to get boring soon. What's next? What's next? And then we launched the operations agency, right? Which I'm working very full-time in right now. We have, operators under that, 4 of them, and then a lot of VAs. But, people are hiring me because I'm the face of the agency. They want me to manage their content site or their SaaS or their e-commerce. And so I'm the chief strategist, right? So, and I think I will always be the chief strategist, and then everybody else is executing on the strategy. But yeah, that's my focus nowadays. And then We have an acquisition in the pipeline. Probably by the time this gets out, it'll probably be live. I don't want to share it now, but it's a marketplace. So that's going to be my first technically software play. So we'll see how that works.
Okay, that's changed my line of questioning, because I was going through some of your old tweets. Well, old, I mean 9 days ago, right? It says on October the 22nd, you said you're in the process of a game-changing acquisition in the SEO space to close all the gaps in your offerings. Yeah. I interpret that to be a link building agency, but you're saying it's a marketplace.
Yeah, so link building agency may still be in the works. Okay. I have an issue with the link building agencies. It's hard, right? Because it's not hard. Sorry, it's hard to put the showcase to the client that is quality. Whereas I have a content agency, it's very easy to see high quality content when you read it versus AI content. It's pretty clear, and I can show people 2 examples and then boom, it's right there. But it's really hard for me to show somebody who may not have the background of an SEO like you guys. Like, okay, this is a DR50, has 100,000 page views to it. That's a very quality link. What does that mean for them, right? It's really hard to grasp that. So it's something, I have the people in place to do it. It's just I'm not able to kind of, put a value proposition or all my time on that. It's very profitable, of course, but we'll see.
So I listened to James Dooley last week, and what reminds me of what you were just saying there, it might be this, and we're doing this X, Y, and Z. Are you doing this because it streamlines and lowers your cost base overall to deliver a product for one of those businesses or all of them by having these in one sort of portfolio of niches essentially?
So the answer is yes, but I didn't know that, right? So going into it, again, iceberg, right? There's a lot of unknowns. So one thing, I launched Web Operators, knowing that I'm going to service mostly media-based sites, content-based sites, right? And obviously content is a big thing. But I bought my content agency January this year. So maybe December last year to January this year. And that was not in the thought process that, hey, I'm going to do all of these other things. It was like, okay, that was a good deal in and of itself. And, a lot of people told me, Mushfiq, you're an idiot. AI is going to take over. But no, we were booming, right? For some reason. I don't know. People are figuring out that maybe AI content is not that awesome at scale, right? It just doesn't read well. It doesn't get leads. It works for low competition keywords, just publish. But the clients I'm working with, they don't want that. So anyways, so I bought that, right? And then in July, when we launched the Web Operator agency, realized, okay, we need content. Oh, I have a content agency, right? So we outsource all the content to my content agency and then have backfill to other agency if my agency is overloaded. So essentially, I'm able to profit on 2 fronts, right? Now, yeah, you could say, Mushfiq, you need a link building agency because that's the missing piece. And you're 100% right. I'm not saying you guys.
That's why I thought the tweet was about links.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's yes. So the answer to your question is yes. I am now having a lot of synergy between things. For example, another one is my acquisition agency. Somebody comes to me and says, I want to buy a site. I have a $500,000 budget. Can you help me? Of course, we'll help you to due diligence. We have a deal concierge service where we'll find you a deal. And then they say, I don't have time. I'm like, okay, no problem. We have Web Operators. We can manage that asset for you. And you don't need to worry about content or anything because we own a content agency as well. And then we get people that say, Mushfiq, you're too expensive for me. Right? Your operations is too expensive. And it is, right? Your due diligence reports are too expensive. I don't have the money. It's like, well, no problem. I have courses and my training products on the website Flip. You can learn the entire process because some people have more money than time. That's completely okay. So the whole ecosystem is there for buying and selling and growing businesses.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the different parts that I want to individually get into. I'm going to try and hold all of those thoughts so we can suspend each one of those conversations and
I might talk too much, so just stop me, okay?
No, it's good. We've got an overview of all the topics that we're probably going to cover in more detail. Sure. So let's finish. Or let's go into Web Operators. So Fairly recent. I listened to the Jackie podcast where you talked about how successful it had been so quickly. And so you mentioned being the strategist. And so that kind of caps, I guess, what you can do over the medium term, because you've only got so many days in a week and hours in a day, as well as your other projects. And so I guess it ends up being a sort of bespoke management thing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so I checked the pricing. You've got the two packages at the moment, the niche site package for $17.90, and then the larger authority site one for $34.90. Are those like one size fits all content plus links? Are they bespoke based on the needs of the client? For example, if they've already got a lot of traffic but the CRO is not really there, would you then pull back on content for that? Like, how do you divide your budget to be able to make profit, to be able to still deliver for them, to retain the client?
Yeah, good question. So those fees are our management fee. There's no services involved in those. So content, backlink, CRO, new site design, those are all on top. So that is just our rate for to even work on your site, right? And then that's for mostly content sites, and we have ecom clients and SaaS, and those are 2 times, 3 times more expensive than that. So really, what we are seeing is that clients don't mind paying an extra content budget. Initially, when we started, we kind of bundled everything. And I think our industry does that, and it's wrong. And I'll get into why. They bundle everything and say, oh, you get my management time plus 10,000 words of content a month, plus 5 backlinks, and this costs this much. And that's not the right way to do it. We say, okay, this is my time, our time. And then based on what I see on your site, you need X thousand words of content. We need to do a revamp of existing content. That's going to cost this much. And put a full plan together and then do that. And, the clients that accept stay longer, right, than the ones that don't, because it's more transparent than bundling everything and figuring out how many hours did you work versus what is the cost of the content and all of that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that it was like a base fee and then you bundle the extras on top of what the individual requirements are on top of that. So
yeah,
then,
like with CRO, sorry to interrupt. Those CRO, we had a CRO plan, right? A monthly management plan that a content site that was affiliate that needed CRO. And what we realized is 3 months in, there's nothing more to CRO, because we were CROing like 10 to 20 pages a month. Let's say that's our quota. And after a while, I was like, oh, okay, there's nothing to CRO. Now I'm collecting money, and the client's like, are you doing more CRO? Like, there's nothing to do, right? So we have to bump them down. So we realized, let's just put a base fee. And then if we find a CRO opportunity when the time is right, we charge X dollars per page and has enough margin for us to make sense. And it's like a one-off project, right? And then I can find specialists that just do that, right? Because I know I have a CRO project. Now I know who's in my network that knows how to do that. I know how to do it, but like to outsource it, right? And then it's defined rather than it's all bundled into a management rate. And I'm trying to figure out how much I want to keep versus give to them. I think the quality decreases in that way versus just, separating everything out.
So for the average, go on with that.
I was just going to say, like, who's the customer here then? Like, is it the more, investor who wants to dip his toes into the market and really doesn't want to have that, wants that hands-off approach and wants that report that the site's growing and generating revenue? Or is it, me and Jamie sitting in our room struggling to try and take on more, and perhaps we want to expand our portfolios? Who is it?
Yeah, it's 90% what the first investors who have money but no time to learn all this and no interest, and it's just one part of their investment. So we have somebody with 4 sites, that's a portfolio. We have somebody who's made a lot of money elsewhere, and then they just want us to build up a few starter sites for them, and they keep growing them on a monthly basis. And then the rest, the 10%, the remaining clients are what you explained, where they have successful sites and they want to start another one. They know it's going to take away from the focus, so they just want us to get it going for a year and then hand it off to them and they can take it from there, right? So yes, it's mostly investors, and then secondary is niche site builders who don't have time.
Yeah, it sounds like the sort of original niche website builders model when they blew up, because they managed to tap into that like hands-off investor who was cash rich and wasn't going to worry about a few cents per word difference. And then obviously it died obviously after that, but they had their time. They were, you know what, we were meant to have Mark on the show for the first episode, for, like the big like crazy launch episode, to like what went wrong, like the inside, like the Oprah interview of like it all, but he didn't turn
that
up
would have
in the
been
end.
awesome. That would have been,
he didn't turn up. So if you're listening to this, Mark, you've got a chance of redemption here. Come and tell the story.
Takes all of your customers.
you did quite a good deep dive, and that guy put a fantastic. It was the letter about the inside track about what actually happened on your tweet, wasn't it? You were asking about it.
Yeah. Somebody found a document. Yeah.
It's pretty eye-opening stuff, man. Yeah. Like how it actually went down from what was publicly displayed.
Right.
Well, they're both nice people. I've met them both in real life. Like Adam and Mark are both really nice people. It's sad that it went wrong for them. But interestingly, I'm getting in emails from a marketplace, which is their rebranded thing, which seems to not have gone in the administration and seems to have like survived the bankruptcy conveniently.
I don't want to say what it is because they're copying everything I'm doing. It's ridiculous. Some of the newsletters, the teardowns are pretty much copied, and then operations are everything. I know who's behind it, and I don't want to say it, but it's somebody else that used to be an employee. But anyways, yeah.
Oh, we've got the tea on this podcast now. Don't you ever say Clickball doesn't get the real information?
Yeah, I was going to say we got the inside scoop again.
Okay, so back to it though, because we were talking about these base packages, and I didn't. Maybe you should change the copy on the site, because I didn't immediately get that. Clearly, it was a base management fee.
Definitely.
But so if someone buys a 3,490 retainer to get that sorted, what does the actual overall, like, what would the average total budget end up being on top of that as a total for someone who gets involved in this then?
Yeah, we usually say an additional, I like to look at it in 3 months time periods, and we like to say, okay, you need to spend around $4,000 to $8,000, depending on the size of the site, over a 3 month period on content. And that could be new content or content revamps, essentially, of old content. And that's the typical budget. And that depends on the size, right? If it's an authority site, that's kind of what it needs. If it's a starter site, the higher the budget, the better, because we can move faster, right? And then backlinks and all of that, it's a case-by-case basis. We find we don't like to go to like link farms and just buy some backlinks. If I've, like, for example, from managing a very large coffee site, I have a network of people, right? I can just put out a tweet, or I can put out a Facebook post, or even put a little excerpt in my newsletter. I'm looking for high-quality coffee sites. I'll pay you, or I'll give you an hour of consulting, whatever, right? Something to trade and, get them that link. That's much better than using a link farm. That's why I don't want to start a link building agency, because I think I will be incentivized to use the link farm links that my agency is using to just pad my profits, I think. Whereas I won't put in the effort to source the best of the best links, right? Anyways, so yeah, that's how we structure it. And then client gets essentially like a bullet list of, this is the budget you should expect. We don't collect that money up front. We say, keep this in the back of your mind that we need this. And when the time is right, I'll invoice you for that, and then we'll execute on that strategy.
I was going to say, are you putting any kind of cream on top on that, or you're not then, by the sounds of it?
Say that again, sorry.
Yeah, I suppose where you've got this kind of opportunity, a lot of agencies who do that will put 10% on top.
Okay, yeah. So I don't mark up any of my services, but I own the content agency, right? So there is back end profits, but that's later. I don't get it like immediately. So whatever my content agency, my content agency is 8 cents a word for everybody else, but if you work through us, it's 6 cents a word. So you get that as like a discount, let's say, just because you're my client. And then obviously at the end of the month, I get some profit share from my content agency on the back end, but it's not on the front end.
Gotcha.
And the question I'm wondering is the biggest thing for me that I think I'd both not want to give any away, but I'd also see it as a vote of confidence in the people selling the services, why don't you take like a % upside so that you're super aligned on like trying to grow it and like split the profits and stay like completely on the same incentives?
Yeah. So as in no management fee, I'm just taking.
Or a management fee plus %.
Yeah, sure, a combination, but the management fee is less, right? Yeah. Look, I'm looking for those opportunities. They haven't come ones that look interesting, right? So I could, if I was just a growth agency where I am always aligned, I might get 100 leads and only one of them look good, right? Where I know for a fact I can do that, and that's fine. I will probably one day focus into that. This is probably a transition into that. I think folks like Matt Diggity did that, right? They were first an agency, and now I don't know the name of his agency, but he's just focused on the growth part. So I think it's a transition to that. I 100% want to be fully aligned. It's just about the deal flow that you're getting. And I haven't received the amazing deal flow that, like Jackie at Indexy, he's getting, right? So one day, but hey, if you're listening and you got something that's high authority and you think has opportunity, 100%, I will waive my fee. We'll partner, right? Let's do it.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like the best way to make sure that you're getting access to the big winners, because then if you know that it's going to be worth 6-7 figures based on stuff that you've already refined over time, then that's a lot more than getting $34.90 a month as the management fee.
Of course.
Yeah. Just on because everyone's got a different sort of like culture in how they manage sites and different styles and stuff. Like some people are generate blocks, cadence, different plugins. How do you go and adjust and manage all of these different that have been built with these different WordPress cultures within them? And how do you bring and standardize that? And are there any tools that you always add on to client sites to keep it standardized?
Yeah, we add on. It's a mess, right? It's either so. Some of the sites were built by agencies that we know, so those are done more or less on a standardized structure, and I appreciate that. Like Generate Press, WP Rocket, all Link Whisper, all the stuff that we use in our industry, right? And then there's ones that the client built themselves, and it's like, holy crap, they're using one of the worst builders in my opinion, Thrive Architect. I'm like, God, this is the worst thing ever. And then bad plugins, and then 3 plugins that do the same thing. So yeah, we have to go in there and do the basic cleanup, right? Which starts with the plugin cleanup and just making the site more lean. But yeah, there's nothing I can do. It's just a mess, right? And also it's hard for me to know from the beginning because we don't take WordPress admin access, get in there and analyze and then give a quote. It's like, okay, we're looking at the SEO only and what the site potential is, and later figuring out, this is a mess, right? So
yeah, what's your go-to? Sorry. You guys now.
I was just going to say, what's the common mistake you're seeing everyone make?
Yeah, too many plugins. That's easy. I think using a page builder, you don't need it with Generate Press and these kind of things nowadays. Generate Blocks, Generate Plus. You don't need Elementary. You don't need Thrive. You don't need any of that. And it when we are doing mass production of content and mostly what's called content updates, right? We need Gutenberg. It's much easier to work. Whereas these Thrive, they have these templates. It takes many more clicks to get the same thing done. So anyway, anything that minimizes the clicks, we like, and the page builder just maximizes the clicks for whatever reason.
Yeah. So what's your go-to set that you always bring to every project?
Say it again?
What's your go-to set of 5, 6, 7 plugins that you always bring to every project?
So Generate Blocks, Generate Press, plugin theme. I think there's a combination of plugin and theme. WP Rocket, Link Whisper. Yes, Spencer. I like it. I like the plugin. Let's see. I use one plugin for backups, I think, and it's tied to Manage WP. It's like it's GoDaddy's product. They bought it, but anyways, I've been using it since it first came out like 10, 12 years ago. Essentially, it's one dashboard with all the sites we manage. They keep them updated. I can update all the plugins through there. They keep them backed up, and then also live status, whether it's down or not. So that's goes on every single site I own, client or not. So yeah, those 5 or 6 guaranteed are on all sites.
Okay, nice. Got to consider Lasso. We got to get you on there and trying it out and see if we can make you some more money, man.
Sure. Yeah.
There we go. Do you put your new Ecom venture that you mentioned you'd got into recently on a recent podcast onto the same content structure? Like, how does that work with mixing those projects?
Yeah, that one is my wife's the owner. I am just an employee. That one is managed through web operators as a client. So I am hiring myself to manage that through that business. And so, yeah, we are publishing content. Mostly it's e-commerce, so it's much different. It's built on Shopify, so focusing more on collection pages, product pages, blog posts and stuff are kind of secondary. But yeah, so we're growing that, and that's been growing nicely. But yes, they're all kind of combined, but that one is more separate. I don't talk about it publicly. I don't want any copycats. It's impossible to copycat, but still, it's not my right to do that.
Have you noticed that because it's on Shopify and not WordPress, that it's been more resistant to updates? Because did you see the Eric Lencheras behind On Page AI put out his research and sort of found that there's a correlation between being a WordPress site and being hit, as if that was like kind of specifically trained on the classifier. Mm-hmm. Do you feel good now that, like, I mean, have you been immune on the store? Like, how's it been?
Yeah, my Shopify site's not been hit. It grew. So yeah, I have one data point, but yeah, I haven't read that article, so I don't know, but that sucks if that's the case, that WordPress sites get hit. The WordPress sites get abused the most, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it'd be... I was just going to say, I think it'd be very difficult not to talk about ACU just because everybody was, like, vast majority of niche site Twitter seems to have been hit in some shape or form. Having sort of keys to many castles, essentially, how have you sort of seen this landscape happen over the last few weeks?
So, as in getting hit by the updates?
Yeah, like what are you seeing anything that's correlating across the way that you're building versus, say, other sites?
My sites got hit. Yeah, I'll be honest, right? My website Flip itself got hit, and I've shared that, and it's weird. I don't know why. Some of my sites that I've had for 5 years in the dating niche, earning 10K plus per month consistently without even touching it, on an age domain that's very, very powerful, probably the most powerful domain in this space, got hit, and all of a sudden randomly, right? And it never got hit before, or if it did, it always recovered within a month or two. So that one got hit. Another site got hit. So I don't know. But the thing that was consistent between these 3 sites, I didn't touch those sites for years. So the website Flip, the content that was on it, I have not touched it in a year. So just recently I went in there for 1 week and did all the updates, right? The same with the dating site, same with the other site. Never touched it, never logged in. So the content is probably outdated. I don't know. But so they do need some, and I say this all the time, right? The websites do take tender love and care. They are living, breathing entities. You got to take care of them. I don't do what I preach right here because it's a lot of work. And this is something I think I tweeted about, and I'm not the one who came up with this content debt, right? You just publish, because publishing is easy. And I'm seeing this running a content agency now and managing clients. Publishing content is new content easy. Put an outline, get the writer, publish, right? Very easy. But updating content is so much harder, right? Yeah. So much harder. And this is where our niche site folks are at this inflection point now, and they're seeing this. They're seeing their sites getting hit, and either you just give up or you got to go in there and update all these articles, right? And that means reading the article, figuring out what's missing, putting together a master outline that makes sure that not all the old content is replaced in parts. I mean, just think about that, right? And we're doing that with our clients now and updating content. And people don't, and the clients unfortunately don't appreciate the amount of effort that goes into content revamps. And there's only for 10 new content outlines we can do, there's probably the same amount of time, 3 content revamp outlines, right? It's just that much effort. So us niche-side folks, we published 1,000 articles. Good luck updating those 1,000 articles. I mean, that's a full-time job, right? So the income school and all these people that preach just publish without a strategy of updates, you're in trouble, right? And then don't use backlinks. Like there's so many wrong things that's been preached in our industry. And look, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no. The best bit from the income school guys recently is he was getting attacked for one of his sites getting hit. And in the replies to Charles Flo, I'm not joking, he used this quote, "What I'm doing is biblical." And I was like, how the fuck can you scam people and call it biblical, man? Like, who the fuck's this shit? Like, who does that? Weird guy, man. He's lost the plot. Yeah. Anyways, big up to everyone who paid for income school. There's better courses out there that I think you should go to instead. But yes, I agree. People don't realize that like content is an asset until it becomes a liability, and people don't plan for that. Like, SAMMIE, you do this well, I know, when you've got these updates that come at like 6-month intervals and stuff to go and like to organize a recheck. I've got a custom G sheet that, based on the importance of the article, it triggers either 3, 6, or 12 months like to go like from green to red in like the checks. But I know there's more advanced ways that you can do that based on like Marco we spoke to recently, who does these really good content decays that like look really carefully into GSC for specific decay on articles from impressions and rankings. So
yeah,
I agree with you. We're actually speaking to Jared later on, and Jared is a big content optimizing guy. He does the agency as well, and one of the things we'll focus on with him is like, how do you because for me, I found it hard to scale content optimizations because there's so much nuance and skill to be able to tell what should be kept, what shouldn't, what's removing the actual gold versus like conciseness that's like actually improving things. How have you been able to do that?
I'm still figuring it out, right? So one thing we do is we don't want, if, for example, if an article was doing well in the SERPs and then it got hit, right? So it was doing well at some point. So therefore there's something there, right? That doesn't mean that the whole article should be scrapped, in my opinion, right? It just means that maybe competitors beat me because they cover some other topics that I should have covered, or Google figured out, okay, these topics should have been covered and therefore I got demoted. And then maybe some data points were wrong. So what we do is mostly, if I analyze the content, figure out, okay, if it's a data-driven article or some statistics or some kind of outdated information, we definitely fix that. That's a no-brainer. That's easy to do. And then we add new sections. We don't really remove content unless it's outdated. So we're not removing sections because it's just there. We're really just adding new things and fixing up old things. And those things are easy to do, because for adding new things, you can just look at the SERPs, see what other people have covered and why they're up there, and so add those sections, new frequently asked questions and whatnot. And then for outdated, you just have to understand the topic. And that's something else that's an issue, is writers write based on the research that they have done at that point in time. But updating things, you need to have expertise, in some kind of expertise, to know that that's wrong. And that takes a lot more hours for a writer to figure out. So we haven't really figured out the most economic way to handle this. And we are actually kind of taking a loss on those things on our agency when we're doing content updates, because we haven't figured it out, right? It's not that easy. And I think there needs to be a SaaS that kind of does this content updates and monitors your content and finds new data points or new things that, oh, this sentence is wrong based on statistic. And AI will solve that. I think that's a good use case for AI. Content production, new content is not a good use case for AI.
Well, we'll get to that. But I do want to touch on, I agree with you. There are really good prompts now that we have in-house for like specifically, and now with the web browsing thing on GPT, it'll be even better with Claude with the larger context window. But for the moment, you can get it to pick specific elements in each section that your competitors might have that you don't, any FAQs you don't have, bits that like they describe better. Like, I mean, that's obviously subjective. I wouldn't necessarily trust AI's take on that, but it's one of the best ways to like it's not scalably, but without as much time and like focused attention, because like there's a difference between time and like super focused like flow state checking of articles, and it saves more of that to be able to output it more. But you are still very much on the human side for content,
Yes.
as very much showing you put your money where your mouth is and invested in Clockwork Copy. I think that the copy was really good. I got some copy from there at the end of last year. I had to ghost you on the DMs offering though, because I got offered equity in like one of their competitors. I was like, I can't fucking use them anymore now, because I have a piece of my content pal now that I think are sort of the similar price point and stuff. But I think that Clockwork Copy did a good job. If I'd known that deal was going around, I'd have tried to get in on it. So congratulations for getting that one first. So well done.
Sure.
I think that's going to be a good investment. So the thing that I talked to Craig from My Content Pal about a lot is, I think that as this goes on, the bottom gets murdered, the lower middle gets murdered, and we gradually see this up creep as AI inevitably gets smarter, better trained, etc.
Right.
So I was telling Craig, cool, it's working for the moment, but you will need to go premium over time, because the premium market for human is strong. Big businesses with budgets have still got budgets, but the average niche site person is getting cold feet more and more and more. And you may have counter data for that, but that's just how I interpret it. How are you considering merging human and AI in the future, or are you rigidly going, that's not what we do here? What's your thought process?
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about this. No, we will never use AI. There is no, and we've talked about this with Jimmy, who's the main person behind this, my partner, and he's always been, okay, this is a boutique content agency of human written content. And, initially I brought up, can we have a sub product where we do AI plus human edited content? And then, he made a good point is, if we do that, then the people who are getting the human content, they're paying the premium, will always have in the back of their mind, are they doing AI and just making it double edited versus single person edited or something like that? There's always that pushback. And I know there's some competitors in my space that are doing that, both of those, but I think down the line, that's going to cause issues with their higher tier clients who are paying the bills, right? The lower tier clients, they're not paying the bills, right? They're just, you got to have volume, to get the same amount of money profit from the higher tier clients. So I'm not in the volume game. I have, back in the day, I used to do a lot of volume stuff in other businesses, and it's a hassle. You always get screwed on volume game. So it's all about premium. So no, we will 100% be human content. And if that means pricing goes up, or we niche down to, let's say, SaaS only or ecom or law or these specific niches, we can do that and bump up our rates. For example, we have some really good writers that I have trained up through the website Flip in the B2B space. So they understand everything related to reviews of software products, to using them. And I pay them a lot of money, and I can probably charge 15 to 20 cents for those people to clients who want like B2B content. So anyways, we're up leveling. We're not down leveling ever.
Interesting.
How do you factor that in once it just gets ridiculously smart though? Because it's going to get there, and we're not far away from it. They're saying GPT-5 will be almost 1,000 times smarter than GPT-4. That's like incomprehensible when technically it's smarter than 85% of human beings already. So then if you put that 1,000 times on top of that, how are you then? You're still going to say never? Like, I find that very difficult.
At this stage, I'm saying never, right?
Never say
See,
never.
this is what I mean. Like when people are like, "You're never going to use it," it's very difficult to say that.
I'd say, from what I have, my agency has written the GPT 3.5 and 3.4 like wave, and from what that has outputted, we do 100 times better job, right? Yeah. But with GPT 5, 6, I have no idea, and it will just be, we'll figure it out on the way, right? Okay. But yeah, if it's 1,000 times,
it's mad, isn't it?
It's like, maybe humans don't ever need to write again, and then that's okay, right? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, so we'll see.
So
I should never say never.
If not in the writing, though, are you using AI to save you time in the research phase or anything else before writing content? For example, I use a SaaS tool by Cal Short, Reword. And what Reword does is it helps like source like stats and quotes and stuff from the topics on like a sidebar. So you've got like, I call it like a HUD, like you play in poker where you've got stats outlines on whether people play poker, but like the equivalent for writing where it gives you the information, and then it's still a talent game to like place that content based on what you know about structure and how to write good content, but to save the sort of time that is just doesn't need to be used. Are you doing that sort of stuff, or is it like or not?
So content outline production takes time, as I said, and we're trying to figure out the best tools to kind of put that together now. So I wouldn't be able to say. And Reward is one I'm looking into. I have to still try it. It's been shared. I think I tweeted who's using what tools on this because I'm starting to figure it out, right? It could take us a couple hours to put together a proper content outline, but I want to cut that down to 30%, right? Yeah. But at the same time, not just because other tools are like Surfer and whatnot, they just look at the SERPs and then see what headers are people using and put together an outline. That's what everybody's been doing, and all those sites got hit, right? So what's different? Like I need to figure out why, because the outlines that my team is creating, they're all hand done, right? They analyze the SERPs themselves. They use common sense, where common sense is thrown out when you're using a tool because it's just so easy. So I need to infuse common sense and just expertise of that operator, because again, I didn't mention all my operators have their own portfolio of sites, and they have flipped sites themselves. So these are not VAs, right? These are people who actually have built up sites, know SEO, and have at least 5 years experience, and have sold sites, so they know the full process. They just are a lesser version. I have 15 years, they have 5 years, so they're good enough, right? And so they have expertise, they know what they're doing. But once I put them on Surfer or any tool, they forget all of that, right? Like, okay, I'm saving time, let me click and just do that. I need to infuse common sense expertise with software and figure that part out, and I haven't figured that out yet.
Go on, Jay.
Oh, sorry, were you saying something, Sammy?
I was going to, but then you kind of answered it there. I was like, it's so easy now with these tools just to forget about human led. One thing that was really interesting in Niche Pursuits, I think it was the other day that they had a guy called Jesse on. I can't remember his last name.
Jesse Cunningham. I think
he's in your mastermind. He's in your mastermind. What he did say, which I thought was really interesting, something which you said there about the human outline, was that he actually gets like authors of books in the space to write the outlines for articles. And actually what that does is a way more natural feel of how a user would look at that topic. And then he takes his writers and his SEO writers goes in and writes that article based on that outline. But actually it's much more like a book rather than H2, H1, H3 FAQs at the bottom, conclusion kind of thing. Right. And he's found really good results in that. And I just found that super interesting because it's the first time where we're seeing a lot of this like, user generated free human based content that Google seems to be preaching about. That's the first time I've heard something like that.
And I think he will win long term, right? Because I think, now that I think about it, FAQs at the end of an article are sketchy, right? I mean, who does that in real life?
It's on 300 of my pages, man.
Right? Yeah, I'm thinking I need to go and not do that now if it's like the classifier. FAQs equals ban.
I'm thinking about it. It should be integrated within the content, right? It's not. And most of the FAQs are garbage, right? They don't make sense within the context of the article. So, look, most niche sites got hit. It's probably because of content structures that are similarities, right? We all do kind of the same stuff. FAQs at the end, conclusion that doesn't make any sense. It's just there for their introduction that doesn't make sense. Buying guys at the top. I mean, look, we all do the same stuff. So he's probably on the right track, and he probably shouldn't have shared that.
What I think is a big factor, and this will be the last one on the content before we go on to a couple other topics. I know I don't want to take too much of your time up, but the thing that I'm recurringly seeing, and what I personally believe to be a big factor of whether you get hit in these updates, is like purely like an information gain focus. How much you adding unique information to the knowledge graph, both on a document level but on a site level. And I think that those sites will always be in demand and push from Google because they want to encourage more of that. So purely selfishly, so they can steal all your information and repurpose it and steal it for SGE and whatever else. Fine, whatever. I'll take it for the short term, whatever. Right. How are you creating systems that
surface that unique information that isn't on your competitors' pages, so that you've got that source of information gain, so that you weather these storms and continue to grow?
Man, whew, that's a question, right?
I've got my notepad and pen out now.
There isn't. Man, okay, yeah. For sites I work on, right, personally, anything website, it's all my personal stuff. That's why those sites have done a really, really good job, right? They've always grown. They have information from my head that nobody else knows, right? So there you go. That answers that question. So it's my expertise. Now, for sites I'm managing, like for web operators, it's really hard. I can't sit here and tell you that, oh, I have a lot of unique data points that nobody else has. I mean, it's impossible. Now, there are owners that I'm working with, for example, in the golf niche, right? This person is a golfer, right? And another one, travel sites where the person actually lives in that city, right? So we have kind of come to an agreement that, look, if we keep doing this as is, you're going to get hit one day and your site's just going to die. But if you kind of involve, maybe give me 5 hours of your time a week where we'll publish the content, you go back in there and add images that you took with your family out when you're out and about in the city or this restaurant or whatever. You could just give it to us. We'll handle the labor, right? Add those data points or the specific things that I'm not going to have, right? Same with the golfer, right? We have an expert golfer writer that's writing, but then the author, the owner, is going in there and adding little data points like, oh, you should swing like this, or an image of him, right? So those little things we're doing now in the last month, where the owner is more involved, and it's always come back to, look, this is the landscape. If you want us to just do it as is, how we've been doing, we're happy to, but I guarantee your site will get hit. So you have to be involved if you want this to be a long-term investment. And most say, yeah, that's fine. It's hard to get them to give the information. You gotta just chase them down. But look, I want a client that's 12 months, 16 months with us versus 3 months, and then they get hit by an update, right?
Yeah,
so I'm willing to put that effort in. So yeah, so the answer is as much unique information as I possibly can. And then there are sites that it's just impossible, right? And both parties know that. And we're just riding the next Google wave, I guess. There's nothing we can do. Just luck, right?
Well, there's been a lot of speak about brands and building brands and integrating different channel sources, YouTube, Pinterest, all of these types of conversations.
Yeah.
Surely you're aware of this, and what are you doing, and what are you advising clients with this too?
Yeah, so that's a good question. For me personally, I'll answer in a little bit, but for clients, what we're saying is, look, we will handle all the SEO, all website stuff, right? Monetization, SEO, CR, whatever, right? Now you have free time. What do you want? I mean, essentially, yeah, you can lay hands off and do nothing, but I guarantee you'll get hit. Or, give me pictures. That's one idea. Or a few of them said, look, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to do the social media. You do the content and SEO. And that's a perfect mix, right? But again, that's probably 3 out of 10 clients, right? That want to do that. So yeah, those guys will be the winners long term. So yes, we're kind of diversifying in that aspect. Personally, for my portfolio, every single I'm very active on social media, so I'm always talking about all my businesses, right? I'm not that active on YouTube. I have like 3 videos on my channel. It's just hard.
It's brutal, man.
It's hard, and I don't know if the one other thing is that the niches that I am in, which is acquisitions, website flipping, and all of that, there's only so many people searching that stuff in terms of like Google search and I don't know if somebody who's wanting to buy a $500,000 website is putting how to buy a business on YouTube, right? It's just not what they do. They're looking for experts. Now, yeah, so that's why I haven't really focused on YouTube. Maybe it'd be good to bring people, educate them up, but
I disagree. I reckon that you could peel off a lot of this, like the buying online business, like investor space, like the sort of newer rich people investors. I reckon a lot of them or at least if it comes up and recommended, would find that interesting as an
Grew
entry
up
point.
with it.
I reckon you could peel off a lot of like institutional style investors that are just surfing, and then they trust you because they've seen you talk about the topic. They trust that you can find a good deal for them. I think you'd be surprised what you can do on there.
Yeah, look, I am so naive on YouTube. You're 100% right. You guys have done it. I mean, I know, Jamie, you've done it a lot. So, yeah, maybe I need to get on it. It's just so much
as well,
more.
like you're kind of solidifying the article as well. It's giving that extra point of value to the article with it explained for someone who doesn't want to read the 3,000 words that they're about to get into.
Right.
It's I mean, there's so many opportunities in there, but yeah, it is a complete and utter, like, career in itself.
Yeah.
You could just do that all day long and crush it, but we're SEOs and so it is harder for people.
Yeah.
I tested like purposely making really bad AI powered auto videos, and they would get like 3 likes, 10 dislikes, right? But they would still index on the search in the SERPs straight away. There doesn't seem to be like a quality score for the video that's applied to like taking SERP positions. I haven't tested this a lot, but I'll get like from my initial testing, it's very easy to take out real estate with like really shit videos. I'm not recommending that everyone goes and does that, but the bar is lower than like in written content. But separately, you posted a couple months ago about the unfinished results of a digital PR campaign with 2 companies. One of them hadn't delivered, one had maybe delivered. We never got an end to the story. What's your opinion on digital PR now? Have you lost faith? Did they bring it out and save it at the last bell? How did it work?
No, they failed. I should have updated. Yeah. No, so backstory and fairness to them. I know both of them. Everybody knows both of them.
I know who this agency is. So
sure.
yeah.
One of them is lesser known and one of them is very well known, but still known. And they came to me, approached me and said, we're launching this new service. We built all these links for these clients. And one thing with having a following and a newsletter is I can get a lot of free stuff. And look, I'm not going to say no to some free stuff for a mention in Twitter or something like that if they deliver results. So I launched then my web operators and web acquisition by that time. And I'm like, okay, I need some links to this, right? So they're like, okay, this is an agency, your face is on it. It's going to be a home run. And I know that from the website Flip, where I hired Shauna Newman. Maybe you guys know her.
She's great.
Her Hero agency. And she built me like 15 links within like 2 months. And this was back in the day, right? When Hero was easier for the website Flip. And that's what got started. Look, Shauna did an excellent job. And I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And so we started. Nothing for like 2 months. No updates, nothing. And all of a sudden I remember like, hey, we're doing this, right? And they built really garbage links. They were not, and it wasn't their fault. It's digital PR, right? They're just mass emailing journalists. And all the links that came in were really low quality news, whereas they were sharing that they got DR90, DR80 links. That's what I was expecting. So we scrapped the projects on both and so nothing happened out of it. So I don't know who's the winners in these campaigns. It's definitely not me.
It's a mad industry, man. It is so hit or miss, and equally as well, that person could have been pitching some really great stuff and it's just not landing, or vice versa. They might not be pitching, they might be over pitching and not focusing on quality. But again, you might not land something for 3 months and then all of a sudden one campaign hits and it's 30 links and you're laughing. And it is wild because I didn't have that expectation when I first walked into it. When I was doing it with niche website builders, I was like, guys, what the fuck is going on? Like, where's my links? And they're like, these are all the pitches that have gone out. And I'm like, these aren't bad pitches. It's just not landing. So it is so hard, man. But the value is there from those links if you can get them. It's just like, and it's expensive as well. And I think it's been juiced up, man. It's been juiced up. It's the new sorry, I was just gonna say it's like the new hip thing, isn't it, to do digital PR?
It's a new word, digital PR. It's just hero on steroids. There's nothing special, right? But yeah, it was like a 10K package, right? So with the retail pricing. So if I paid that, I don't know, probably wouldn't get a refund, but so I don't know. I'm all about niche edits. If I'm building links, I don't care about these PR links. So
Fair. I happened to be in a conversation with someone who I think you've done business with before. I'm not gonna like it. I'm sure you've done business with everyone, but I was like, oh yeah, Mushfiq's coming on the podcast next week. And he was like, ask him if he considers himself a hard negotiator or someone who's willing to give way. And I'll give you the quote. He said, "It's 2x when Mushfiq's buying. It's 4x when Mushfiq's selling."
look,
How much of a compliment is that to you?
No. Yes, I'm a very, very, very hard negotiator, and he or she is 100% right. Yes, in my content and everything, I'm giving the market rates, right? When I'm buying, I'm definitely not paying market rates unless I see a lot of easy wins and I just want to close the deal, right? But yes, no, I'm not paying market rates. If you want to sell me something and you quote, and this has happened, right? Somebody sends me a deal and it's like, Mushfiq, you said the valuation is 35 to 45x. I want 45x. I'm like, yes, that's market, but I don't buy at market, so I'm gonna pay you 25x. It's just what it is. And I have that luxury, and then just to, it's not like just because I'm saying this, I have the luxury of saying no. And I have the luxury of getting hundreds of deals a month, right, to look at and saying no. So I know that I will find something else down the line that's a better fit. So it's for most people though, you're gonna have to pay market to get a deal. It's just how I got started initially doing that, right? But then I built the following, and now I get deals that are below market. So
that was going to be my last question, really, was like, we've gone quite deep into some topics here, but if I'm a beginner today and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, hey, Mushfiq, like how on earth do I get started? Do I buy a site? Do I build a site? What would be your advice?
Yeah, good question. Right now, if you have a budget, it's better to buy a bigger site. And then let me explain why. A bigger site means revenue-wise probably more than 10,000 a month. And that means a 300, 400,000 price point. So the reason one is those are more stable based on everything else that's going on right now. Those are more stable. They more or less have multiple traffic sources, multiple revenue streams. And obviously, you're not buying a 10K site with one revenue stream and 98% organic traffic. That's a bad deal, right? You're going to have to see the diversification. They might have Pinterest and all of that, right? Those will stand and then make sure they have good backlinks, right? And most likely, if they got to 10K and hundreds of thousands of page views, they've kind of gotten those natural links or built them, and they've more or less. It takes time to build something to 10K a month. So they've been around for more than 3 years. So there's all these little things that with the revenue goal comes all these other back end things that are good for a site. So those will last longer. Buying something now for like $500, $1,000 a month, that's going to be a typical AI-based niche site, right? And it's not the time right now to buy those. It's the time to build those. So you can probably build that much cheaper and much more quality than you can buy from brokerages that are selling these low quality sites, and everybody knows who they are, right? So build now. And if you're buying, buy higher, or don't buy. Just build.
Great advice.
Yeah, it reminds me of that video, and it's in the Traffic Think Tank as well, but Ian House's video on affiliate sites versus affiliate businesses. And one of the things he came back to was, if with a 20K word agent's budget or Clockwork Copy or My Content Pal budget, whatever that is, and a domain name and like a person, could I replicate everything on your site? And it's like,
yeah. Most sites, yes, it's very easy to replicate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
for coming on, man. It was really good to have you. It was good to hear the insights on a couple of things that you haven't spoken about before. Get an insight into how you manage all of these different elements and offerings and the whole suite. Sounds like you've got different offers for every stage of to like counter every objection. You got money, you pay. You got no money, you buy my course.
Right.
You want to run your website, you pay through my content. You've sorted every single element there. But before you go, this is your time to get paid for your time now. Shout out anything you want to sell, and feel free. We'll stick it in the show notes. Maybe there's an affiliate link for something. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, I don't want to sell. I think my Twitter is my main, at the website flip. Follow me on there. If you like what I talk about, you can find all the information I have online. So no selling from my end. Thanks, guys. This was great.
Cheers. Thank you very much, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.